This is a large locust log I got from a friend of mine at work. You can see it's got a big piece up in the top there where an old limb must have blown out of the tree. I'm going to cut it in half right down the center, and then we'll cut out some bowl blanks from the log. You see my chainsaw technique here is to kind of roll the nose of the chainsaw up in a straight line from each side, and that really keeps it in a straight path. If you draw back, I find that keeping a straight line with the saw is really difficult, so I'll roll the nose up and then swipe back, keep doing that. Now that I got it in half, I'll mark out where the bowl blanks are going to be. Unfortunately, right there where my gloves are sitting, there's a big rot spot in that spot, and I wasn't able to use any of that wood, so I'll cut out one large bowl blank from each side and one small bowl blank. Go around here. I keep the two together as long as possible. Helps me keep the pieces stable as I cut them with the chainsaw. Need to kind of work on my chainsaw platform that I have there a little bit more in order to be able to hold the smaller pieces. Now I've got the rough out up on the lathe. I just put a faceplate directly onto the bark versus actually cutting the bark away. It seemed like it was sturdy enough, and I used some 2.5-inch long deck screws to really hold it in place there. Slowly cutting away the outside to try and get the piece balanced out. That way I can bring the speed up. Probably running at this point in time about maybe 250, 300 RPM. Checking my progress. For this I'm using my larger roughing gouge. It's about a 3/8 bowl gouge. Slowly bringing the side of the bowl in, taking away some of that bottom. The more and more I take away, the more and more balanced it gets, and I can start to turn the RPM up to a more comfortable turning speed. It's about 500 RPM or so. Marking the 10 in there for my chuck. I'm using I think it's about a 4-inch diameter chuck here to hold this piece. It didn't turn out that big. It's about 17 inches in diameter, mainly because of that rot spot I had to avoid. And now I'm just kind of getting my final shape on the outside. You can see I got some lines in there still that I'll have to take out. Part of the issue with the wood is it's so hard, it dulls the tools really quickly even though it is wet. It's a very dense wood. Doing some shear scraping along the edge, not really shear scraping, just scraping rather, just to try and get the piece a little more uniform along the wall. Using my smaller detail gouge to take off the bottom of that bowl. Tried the chuck on. Tenon was a little bit too big. Take off a little bit more, and now it fits. Always bring my tailstock up when I put my chuck on there just to help center that unit. There you can see the faceplate. Got a small piece of shim wood on the one end just to keep it kind of straight. I ended up peeling the bark off since I lost a piece, and it had a lot of rot behind it anyways, so I wasn't able to save that. But it still turns out pretty good anyways with the natural edge. Keep my tailstock up as long as possible just to maintain some balance on the end until I can get most of the wood away that's causing it to be unbalanced. Still using my bigger bowl gouge here. Switched to my my smaller 1/2-inch bowl gouge now, which can maintain a little bit of a better edge I noticed on this tool, so I'll use this to do the final cuts on the wall as I bring it in. Just checking my progress. I take the wall on this piece down to just shy of 1/4 of an inch or so, maybe 3/16. Got to go sharpen the tool there as I get some of my final cuts done. Actually check thickness just on that short little bit. Take out the nub where I had my tool rest up and in place, and start to core out a little bit more of the bowl. It's a neat shot, shooting in from the side of the bowl, the intermittent cut. You can really see the tool kind of coming in and doing the cutting. Now I'm coring out more of the bottom of the bowl, or going to depth rather. And here I'm doing a scrape and cut back from the center of the bowl out, and then I kind of switch and go from the outside of the bowl back in. This helps me get down to depth without getting catches on the side of the tool. Finishing off the inside bottom of the bowl, I have to continually move the tool rest back and forth. Can't really do a bevel cut here on the bottom, a little bit maybe, just a little bit right there, but then as you get further in I can't do a bevel cut simply because of the angle I put on the bottom of my tool. So I have to kind of take the tool and sweep it back and forth and try and flatten out the bottom as best I can. So there's a little bit of finesse kind of involved in this process. Then I bring my scraper in and I do a little bit of scraping on the bottom of the bowl just to get rid of where I was sweeping the gouge back and forth. Even though the bowl's really wet at this point in time, I did take some sandpaper to it. I went from with about an 80 and 100 grit on it just to get rid of some of the lines that the gouge left there.
Here are the two bowls out of the Locust log, or the large ones at least. The other two smaller ones I haven't turned out yet. This was the one I shot all the video on. It's sanded to about 220 or so. I sanded it wet because I had a line in here from the gouge and I was having a hard time getting that out. So I just thought I'd take it down to about 220 and let it dry from there. There's a little bit of cracking right here. I'm sure you can see that, where there was a small twig or something that came out, or a branch. And so I'll seal that up with some CA just to keep it from cracking any further. This is the second one. I turned it in, shoot any video on this. You can see how orange this wood is when it's wet. It should finish that way when I get done. I didn't sand this one at all because I got a little bit better surface as I cut it there. And then here's the live edge on there. It's pretty small really. Some discoloring in here, I guess that's mold or something. The bark came off right away. There were quite a few of these beetle or boar tracks through there, so not sure if the tree was on its way to dying or not. But what I was really going for with this was to get that figure in the bowl, but I should have known better because it really ran through the bowl right kind of in this area right here in the plane of the foot. And it pretty much all got turned away, and that was because I had to get rid of that big spot over here that was pretty well rotten. So missed out on a lot of that, but they still look really neat. I like them a lot. This is what I was going for more, something like this. This is a piece of ash, and you can see in this one the figure of the wood ran right down the center, and I was able to keep that in the tree. Now when you do that natural edge, all that figure kind of shows up and stays in the bottom, versus if it was in this plane it would pretty much just get all turned away. So keep that in the bottom. This one's been sitting around for a month or so. It's got some cracking here, which I've sealed up with some CA glue, and I'm just waiting for this one to dry out the rest of the way. It's got a little bit of weight on the bottom still, so we'll wait to finish that one. Alright, well I'm going to pack these away in some paper bags and check on them throughout the next couple weeks to make sure I don't get any more major cracking. But after that, I should be able to sand them down to a final finish and put a coat of oil on them, and they'll be good. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and check out some of my other videos.